So, samma kammanto is right action. And the definition that the Buddha gives is that one abstains from taking life. One abstains from taking what is not given, and one abstains from sexual misconduct. These three things are considered to be right action. And so, what is taking, or what is abstaining from taking life? The Pali word is panatipata. If you've taken the 5 precepts before, you know that's the first one. You've heard that word many times. Pana simply means like life, a being. And atipata is to slay. So basically what this right action is to abstain from slaying beings. Of course, this encapsulates all beings that are sentient beings that are in samsara, even the little creepy crawly ones that you hope stay on their side of the kuti, so you don't have to hurt them if they get too close. These kind of things. Even all these beings, the beings that slither on the ground, creepy crawlies, every being, when we take on this right action, we train to abstain from killing any being, even if it's for what we think is a good reason. Like that spider creeped me out. Okay? So the Buddha's definition of this, what he says is there's a case where a certain person abstaining from taking of life dwells with rod laid down, merciful, beneficent, scrupulous, and with compassion for the welfare of all beings. So as I said in speaking about right speech yesterday, all of this is an ideal to strive for. You know, nobody expects that we're going to take the noble, we're going to take the 5 precepts, we're going to follow this, I'm going to totally refrain from killing all beings. And then, the next day you see a spider and you freak out and you're in a mind of fear, and then you kill the spider or something like that. And it's like, oh man, I'm a really horrible Buddhist. I'm so bad, I suck, all these kind of things. No, we want to understand that this is, when you get into a situation like that, that's the situation, that's the time to examine that. What were the events that led to you taking the life of that being? What was the mind state involved in that? And then you can start to see how one thing leads to another. You can start to see how fear makes you unmindfully do action. And then you can even extrapolate that when you start to see that how it works in your own mind. You can start to see how it kind of works in the world. All the fighting and the killing and the fear and the hatred and all that. You can start to understand a little bit of why this group hates that group and they've been fighting for a long time and all these kind of things. Right? It gives you insight into how things work in nature. And so with that insight, when you continue to practice and you develop the insight and you're in your room or whatever, and then there's all of a sudden a big spider. And you feel the fear behind you. You feel that fear. The fear is there, but it doesn't control you anymore because you understand, that the beings want to live, and you understand what it is to take the life of a being. And even though you have fear, you decide, okay, well maybe I'm just going to try to grab one of those cups and bring it outside or something like that. That's when you have developed the insight and the compassion to overcome your innate drives to do something as ideal as letting go of the slaying of beings, of abstaining from slaying beings. It's not easy. It's a practice. It's an ideal to strive for. So it's important in that regard to do your best. Most people in the world, most beings, most human beings, are not going around killing other human beings. That's life. They're not other people, but maybe they're killing all kinds of little beings. So especially for us, in a country where we're not in war-torn. We might have bullets flying and people shooting each other and all these kind of things. A little bit easier that we can concentrate on, developing this ideal, this practice of avoiding taking the life of even the smallest beings among us. So the next one is Adinna Dana Vedamani, and that is abandoning the taking what is not given. So essentially this is stealing. And the Buddha's definition of this is one does not take what has not been given in a town or a village or even in the wilderness if it's something that belongs to somebody else. So this is something that we can see that it might not be as harmful and as big as, killing a being, but we can understand we like our things, right? We like, I have this and I have that and I have, this is a useful tool and I have a car and I have these things. And then I'm sure all of us have had some experience of somebody taking something that we hold dear or something that we find useful, right? And it's a horrible experience. It's like you have an attachment to this thing, and then the next day, the next second, it's gone. And you understand that this is not very conducive to living in the world with other beings and living amongst other, in a compassionate and understanding community. So with this understanding in mind, you decide, well, if I know that I don't want things to be stolen from me, I will not do that to other people. I won't take what has not been given to me. And of course, in modern times, that can be quite complicated, especially if you're living, trying to follow the precepts and all these kind of things, and you think, well, if I take a pen from work, is that stealing? Or even people think, well, if I downloaded a movie or something like that, is that stealing? There's a lot of gray area. And if you follow the precepts in your life and you really try to take that on, you'll actually realize that there's a lot of gray area in life, period. There's a lot of times where it's not going to be a black and white decision. Like, easy as day. Well, duh, of course, I don't do this. So the best we can do is the best we can do. Just like when Buddha was talking to his son Rahula from yesterday. You do something and then you examine, has this been harmful? And, oh yeah, it has, so I try to do better next time. So he says that this person, the Buddha says that this person does not take in the manner of a thief. So we want to avoid taking what is not ours. And so the next one is kamesu miccachara. Simply means, you can define that as sensual misconduct or sexual misconduct. It's most often talked about as sexual misconduct because that is indeed what the Buddha's definition of this of this right action is much more related to the sexual activity. So it says that the Buddha's definition is that he abstains from sexual activity with one who is under the protection of their mother, father, brothers, siblings, aunts, uncles, etc. So we can understand that to be like minors, or even maybe people who have maybe they're of age but they don't have the mental capacity to really make these kind of decisions, that kind of stuff. So people who are under the protection of their family, people who are under the protection of their Dhamma. Basically that would mean monks and nuns and priests and all these kind of things. And people who are married, obviously. People who are even engaged. So you can see, and another one is people who entail punishments. I don't know what that means. I haven't been able to find any information. We don't know 2,600 years ago what that could mean. But these are the aspects of sexual misconduct. We can see that this is conduct that is non-consensual and that is harmful to yourself or others. And if you think about it, today we live in this kind of global big society where everybody kind of doesn't even know each other. We have like 10,000 friends on Facebook, but we don't know each other and all these kind of things. Think about 2,600 years ago in small villages in India, or even anywhere, small communities, something like adultery, something like, these kind of acts that break trust and cause this strife. That's not only hurting the people who are directly involved in it, but it's hurting the community itself, causing strife in the community. So I think it makes sense as to why the Buddha would, say that we should be very careful in this regard. And so these three things together combine as right action. And again, in short, you can see that it's simply examining your actions and doing your best to perform actions that will not be harmful to yourself and others. You don't even have to think, well, what's the Pali word for this? And what's the direct definition for this and all that? You can just think, is what I'm doing harmful or beneficial? Should I continue to do this? That's something that you can have a mindfulness for as you're going through your day. Have that power of recollection. That when you're in a situation, when you're, getting involved in something, and you can have, if you think about these three acts, right? What are the killing, the stealing, and the sexual misconduct? When somebody is doing these things, they could be wrapped up in fear, wrapped up in anger, wrapped up in greed and lust. All these mind states that cloud the mind, that we, get involved in, and we just, we can do something, and then, later on we're more clear-headed and we're like, wow, I didn't even, realize that, I was doing this, or that it would get to this point, these kind of things. It's because at that point, when you have this clouded mind full of this greed and hatred and fear, you don't have mindfulness. You don't have heedfulness. And so you don't know what is best for you and what is best for others. So if we develop this mindfulness of this is that we want to perform, we want to keep right action in mind, so that all the actions that we do will be beneficial. It will help you and the people around you, not harm you and the people around you.